Have you ever had that strange feeling of déjà vu, like we've been here before? Wars, economic crashes, civil rights struggles, pandemics, rinse and repeat. Here's a shocking fact. Between 1918 and 2019, the world faced 5 major pandemics. After each one, society made promises to never let it happen again. And yet, here we are. Why does history repeat itself? And more importantly, why don't we seem to learn from it? Today on Timeless Knowledge Discoveries, we're diving deep into one of humanity's greatest paradoxes. We remember the past. We study it. We even teach it. But somehow, we still make the same mistakes. Let's find out why. Let's rewind the tape. In 1914, World War I erupted, a conflict so devastating, it was called the War to End All Wars. But just 2 decades later, World War II exploded on a scale even more catastrophic. The ink wasn't even dry on the Treaty of Versailles before the seeds of the next global conflict were already growing. Fast forward to the 2000s. In 2008, a global financial crisis hit, triggered by risky lending, overconfidence, and a lack of regulation. Sound familiar? It should, because the same reckless patterns played out during the Great Depression of 1929. Almost a century apart. Same mistakes. Same consequences. And it's not just economics or war. The civil rights movement of the 1960s echoed the same demands made during the Reconstruction era after the US Civil War. Freedom, justice, equality. So why does this keep happening? Is it memory loss, denial, or something deeper? Let's unpack it. Here's a curious fact. According to psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus, we forget nearly 90% of what we learn within a week, unless we actively revisit it. This is true for school facts, and sadly, for historical lessons too. Human memory isn't designed to be a flawless archive, it's built to prioritize survival. That means we often remember feelings more than facts. Fear over details. Emotions over timelines. Combine that with short political cycles, rapid technological change, and a media landscape obsessed with them now. And suddenly, history becomes just another blurry background noise. Also, let's face it, some people choose to forget. Why? Because remembering is uncomfortable. It means facing truths about oppression, injustice, or how fragile peace really is. But just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean we should turn away. Because when we ignore the past, it has a way of knocking twice. Let's do a quick comparison that might blow your mind. The Roman Empire, one of the most advanced civilizations of its time, eventually collapsed under the weight of internal corruption, economic inequality, overexpansion, and a loss of civic responsibility. Now think about headlines today. Rising political polarization, widening gaps between rich and poor, disinformation and erosion of democratic institutions. Sound familiar? Historians like Cullen Murphy have even published books titled Are We Rome? To explore the striking similarities. Of course, history doesn't repeat itself exactly. Mark Twain once said, "History doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes." It's not about identical outcomes, it's about patterns. And recognizing patterns is the first step to breaking the cycle. Let's slow down for a moment. Close your eyes and think about something your family has passed down, a story, a photo, maybe even a recipe. Now imagine if no one had told you that story. How much would you have lost, not just knowledge, but identity? That's what forgetting history does. It doesn't just make us repeat mistakes. It chips away at who we are. We often hear the phrase, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." But here's the thing, They are not just condemned to repeat the same events. They are condemned to repeat the same pain, the same confusion, the same injustice. So how do we break the cycle? Let's go deeper into those 5 strategies I mentioned before and why they actually matter. 1. Make history personal. There's a huge difference between reading about World War II and hearing your great-grandmother talk about the sound of sirens in the middle of the night. Stories ground us. They humanize the headlines. They tell us what the textbooks can't. How it felt to live through it. That's where the real learning begins. You don't need to be a historian to care about history. You just need curiosity and the willingness to ask. 2. Learn beyond the classroom. Let's be real, many of us associate history with memorizing boring dates for a test. But that's not history's fault. That's how we package it. History lives in movies like Hidden Figures, Hotel Rwanda, Schindler's List. It's in docuseries like the Vietnam War, the Civil War, or the 1619 Project. It's even on TikTok now, bite-sized lessons with real voices behind them. So if textbooks don't move you, find a story that does. Because once history hits your heart, you'll never forget it. 3. Ask why, not just what. Most people know what happened. But the true learners, the change makers, ask why it happened. Why did the Berlin Wall fall? Why did colonization spread so rapidly? Why did empires collapse? Asking why gives us agency. It turns history from a flat record into a living mirror. It teaches us how decisions were made, who they affected, and what could have been done differently. And that insight, that's fuel for a better future. 4. Share the stories. Don't let them die. Imagine if Anne Frank's diary had never been published. If no one had painted Guernica. If no one told the stories of residential schools, or Rosa Parks, or the Hiroshima survivors. We can't rely on museums and books alone. We are the storytellers now. Tell your kids. Tell your classmates. Tell your friends over dinner. History is not just in books, it's in us. And the more we share, the less likely we are to forget. 5. Train your eyes to see the echoes. History doesn't always shout, it often whispers. A populist leader rising with promises to restore greatness. A surge of racism disguised as national pride. A financial bubble building unnoticed until it bursts. We need to recognize these signs, not as distant possibilities, but as patterns that we have the power to interrupt. And that power, it comes from remembering what happened last time. Let's imagine something for a second. Imagine a world where students not only learn about climate change, they lead the charge to fix it because they studied what happened in the Dust Bowl, the Industrial Revolution, and the Exxon Valdez oil spill. Imagine global leaders who remember the devastation of Hiroshima, Rwanda, and Syria, and who actually pause before choosing violence. Imagine societies that don't wait for a crisis to care about human rights because they remember slavery, apartheid, and genocide, and they know better now. This isn't fantasy. This is what happens when we truly learn from history. And here's something beautiful. You don't need to be in politics, or write a textbook, or lead a protest to help humanity remember. Sometimes, learning from history means speaking up when you hear hate speech at school, calling out misinformation online, voting with wisdom, listening to someone's lived experience and believing them, supporting laws that protect vulnerable communities, donating to preserve cultural heritage sites, helping your kid do a school project about your family's past. These actions, though they may feel small, are how we change the rhythm. They are how we turn the page instead of rereading the same chapter. Because here's the truth no one tells us enough. History isn't set in stone. It's a living story, and we are the authors of the next chapter. What will you write? So next time you read a headline and think, didn't this already happen? You're probably right. But now you know, you can do more than sigh. You can ask. You can learn. You can share. And in doing so, you're becoming part of the solution. Because the best way to honor history is to grow from it. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Timeless Knowledge Discoveries. If you found today's journey eye-opening, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future episodes that bring the past to life. Until next time, keep asking, keep exploring, and never stop learning.